We can start with my presentation, which is all about art is for amateurs. So I already briefly introduced myself. Just to give you a sense of what Docs in Progress is, we're really focused on helping develop documentary filmmakers. But what I actually want to talk about today is sort of about our bigger arts community and specifically about individual artists and more specifically about amateur artists. So I always like to start with a definition. What is amateur? And it actually comes originally from the Latin amator, which means to love, simply means one who loves. But I think today we think of that word in a very different way, and it has a very negative connotation, which is much more about a person who lacks experience or competence, someone who does something poorly. This wonderful picture here is from the Museum of Bad Art. There actually is a Museum of Bad Art. I have to be honest, I kind of like it though. It's a nice interpretation of the Mona Lisa, I think. But speaking of Da Vinci, we all know that he is he's kind of the epitome of the Renaissance person, and came from a time when people were expected, in a sense, or it was looked upon as favorable to be what we call now a polymath, which is someone who kind of, excels in a lot of different things, including the arts. And so I really like this definition of amateur much better, which is really about somebody who engages in something for pleasure or as a pastime rather than necessarily as a profession. And of course we put all the arts, all the possible arts in there, things that people enjoy doing. So why am I interested in this? This is me as a kid. And I didn't just put it in there because it's a cute picture. I put it in there because of the person who was taking it. It was actually taken by my father, who is a computer programmer at the Census Bureau and also was an amateur photographer. And in my very unbiased opinion, a very good one, actually. It's nice framing. I also had a lot of respect for Steven Spielberg. When I was a kid, this was my favorite movie. I went to the movies to see it 6 times. In fact, I think I went to the theater that just got torn down next door to us. And I knew from that time that I really wanted to grow up and be a movie director. And so I was really, really excited when I got my first camera and just started making little short movies, animations and short things with my friends. And I love doing all kinds of arts. I love telling stories and making drawings, painting, doing lots of different things. I think at one point I even sold homemade stickers out of my junior high locker. And then I went to high school, at a high school named for this amateur violinist. Right here in Kensington. And I participated in a program that still exists today called the Visual Arts Center, which essentially is a training for people who want to go to art school. And the only problem is I didn't go to art school. I ended up going to the college named for this amateur zither player and decided that I didn't think I could make a living as an artist, so I would pursue one of my other passions, which was international relations. And so I studied that, and I ended up getting a job out of college at the State Department. That was the president when I was starting out, this amateur saxophonist here. And I ended up staying at the State Department for nearly 20 years, and I loved it, but I also felt the need to keep up with arts. So I actually went back to film school and decided to get into documentary filmmaking, made a few documentaries that combined my interests, one about former Yugoslavia, this one I'm actually working on now, which is about creatives who work for the federal government, of which I've discovered there are many, and who are like me, these people who lead double lives. And then at one point I decided to stop leading a double life and go into the arts full time. And that's how I kind of got into working with Docs in Progress. And I realized that a lot of the people who come to us are people very much like me, not necessarily people who want to be professional filmmakers, but people who have a story to tell. And I think there's a real hunger, and it's not just us. I think there's so much going on, a lot of it within a mile of here, that really is giving so many people who want to explore the arts, whether you want to do it professionally or as an amateur, a way to do it. Whether you want to paint your own pottery or tell stories or learn acting. I think we're living in a time where it's called what I call the sip and paint culture, which means you don't necessarily need to do art to make great art. It could just be about getting together with friends, about having fun, about meeting people, about building community. And speaking of community, I think a lot about the subject of one of the films I worked on, which is, this is at Malcolm X Park in DC, the Drum Circle. If none of you have ever been, please go. It's been going on for 50 years, and it's just a bunch of people come together with their drums. Some of them are professional musicians, most of them are amateurs. But it's really about coming together and enjoying playing and community. So this is a guy I talked to a few months ago who actually said some really interesting things about creativity and work. And what he said is that people who have a creative calling that they pursue on the side, it actually impacts you and your performance in your regular job. It actually makes you perform better. And these are brain scans. This is actually about resilience. These are brain scans of people who have recently retired. Before and after they took an art class. And what they've shown is that after they've taken the art class, it actually helps the neurons in the part of the brain that controls our memory. So it is a way of kind of forming these new connections. So a lot of people know Amateur Night at the Apollo, which their motto is be good or be gone. And I think that's a fun motto, but it's not really mine, because I really feel it's about keep doing, keep doing, keep doing, keep doing, keep getting better. And maybe you will become a pro, and maybe you'll stay an amateur, but that's okay, because you're all making art and we can all make it together. So I hope that this weekend, let's all make some art.